here we go. Another edition of the Fantasy Central show. Micah Henry, Jesse Shooter here to give you some insight into how to win your fantasy football league. To recap, for those of you who did not join us last week, my name is Jesse Shooter. For those of you who don't know who that is and why you should care, I am our football expert of the show. I used to work for the USC football team. I worked for many different position groups over many different years, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, with some great coaches. Dylan McCullough, running backs, won a Super Bowl with the Chiefs. He's over at Indiana. T. Martin over with the receivers for the Baltimore Ravens now, and the current OC for USC, Graham Harrell, taught me the air raid, which a lot of you may be familiar with over in Arizona. So those are my credentials. I scouted for recruiting purposes, and I know my football. For the man who needs no introduction, Micah at Fantasy Central 1. Micah and I know each other from a long time ago. We've been in many fantasy football leagues together. We've played against each other. We've shared teams. We have different opinions, same opinions. So this is going to be a lot of fun to keep this thing going. Micah, say hello to the nice people.
Yeah, man, what's going on, guys? I mean, this is exciting, guys. I mean, I didn't expect to be at this point, having this type of show at this point, in my, I guess career as an analyst. So this is exciting to be at this point, and you know, let's go, let's dive into it.
All right, so we're going to start with quick hits. This is how we started last week, and basically what these are is we'll take a look at the news around the league, and we're going to give it some analysis, right? So the first thing, the big thing that came out today, Jameis Winston named the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Micah, what does that mean for the rest of the Saints' value? What does that mean for Jameis Winston's value?
Man, I love it. He's the guy that can heave the ball downfield. He's done that his entire career. I mean, and I advocate for people to stash this guy in like 2 quarterback super flex dynasty leagues. If you did, you're probably happy. You have yourself a free quarterback off your bench now. For redraft leagues, I think he'll still, probably be prone to, some big interception games, some inconsistencies. That's who he is as a football player, but he'll definitely be a guy that you can grab like as your, bench quarterback, and he'll be solid for you the rest of the season.
What do you think he does for the values of Alvin Kamara? They don't really have a lot of relevant other pass catchers than that, I guess. But, you still got Trotman, you got Juwan Johnson, you got Marquez Callaway as some sleeper value guys. You got Michael Thomas eventually. What does he do for those values?
I love Callaway, man. I mean, we saw him in the preseason game. He flashed that good body control. That was that one touchdown where he was like falling down, still caught the ball. Great body control. He's a good receiver. I guess he's a little underrated. So I mean, that's a guy that maybe you should be targeting. I think that they could form some kind of wide receiver or quarterback connection. So definitely Callaway, definitely interested in him. I don't know about the rest of the guys, but he's definitely the guy I went in that pass catching offense.
I have Kamara in a keeper league, and for me, this is the news that I wanted to hear, as it should be for all Kamara owners. Taysom Hill is not who you wanted at quarterback if you're Alvin Kamara. We saw basically, it's the same thing around the league. If a guy likes to run, then when the pocket collapses and shit hits the fan, for lack of a better term, they go and they run. That's what they do. They scramble. They try and pick up yards that way. When a guy's immobile, the way that Drew Brees is, the way that Phillip Rivers was, they dump off the ball to their running back and let them try and get those extra yards. So that's why Alvin Kamara had all those receptions for all those years with Drew Brees at quarterback. Jameis Winston can't run either. He's slimmed down. Yeah, he's a lot younger than Drew Brees, especially Drew Brees the last couple of years, but he still can't run. So yeah, is he going to be more prone to taking those deep shots and not, peppering Kamara quite as much as Drew Brees? Sure. Is Taysom Hill still going to be involved? Probably even more than he was when Drew Brees was there, of course. But Taysom Hill at quarterback 24/7 was never going to be a good thing for Alvin Kamara. Now you don't have to worry about that. And I don't think he takes the job from Jameis really at any point this season as long as he stays healthy. So
I agree. This is Winston's job to lose. I think we'll have to be like absolutely just terrible, flat out terrible to give up this job.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Moving along. Earlier this week, we found out that Travis Etienne, that's the French pronunciation, Etienne. I know some people say Etienne. He's out for the season. The poor guy. He's a rookie. He is done for the year. James Robinson stepping in full time. We saw what he did last year as an undrafted free agent. Micah, how high are you on James Robinson for this year?
He's a low end RB1 once again. He did it last year. He's and the thing is, people don't look at the production. Like look at the tape. Look at the player. He's a good player. He's shifty. He can evade tackles. He doesn't really get knocked down after initial when he first gets contacted by the opposing player. So I mean, this is a guy that's going to be a low end RB1 for you rest of the season as long as he stays healthy. I'm not really worried about Oh, I just noticed that I misspelled Robinson. I'm not really worried about Carlos Hyde or anything, but I think Robinson's going to be that guy for you rest of the season.
Yeah, look, for me, I'm a little bit more nervous about James Robinson than I think the general public is. For me, I see him as more a solid RB2. Obviously the upside is now there because where there's volume, there's production. And that's what we saw last year is that he's a talented guy and he got all the volume there and the production followed. Just because Etienne's out, I still have concerns about that offense. I mean, if you've watched them in the preseason, granted it's the preseason, their offense just looks lost. The play calling was horrendous. Trevor Lawrence, it looks like he hasn't settled into the game quite as well as people hoped he would right away. That's nothing to say that he's not going to have a great career, but maybe not, for this year. That hurts some of the value of those Jaguars around him. And then the big concern for me is that O-line did not look good in the preseason. They didn't upgrade it at all this offseason. They made a conscious decision not to invest in the O-line. So it's a situation for me that it sets up well for disappointment. He did well last year. He's, it's all built up now for him. The stage is set. Etienne's out. But I'm worried about that offense. So for me, I'm taking him as more of in that RB 18 to 20 range. I'm taking him as a mid to high end, maybe RB2, especially in non PPR. But yeah, that's where I got him.
So do you think that this offense will be worse or better or as bad as the offense from last season?
Well, look, I think that it's pretty hard for it to be worse than it was over the last few years. I mean, pretty much since Allen Robinson's left, we haven't seen a vertical passing attack in Jacksonville, which is part of why James Robinson was so good because the volume was just relentless for him last year.
Yeah.
I think Urban Meyer is going to try and give it to a lot of different guys, and I don't think the offense is – put it this way, he was so reliant on volume last year that it didn't matter how many touchdowns they scored. I don't expect the touchdown numbers to go up. It's certainly not drastically, and I expect the volume to go down. So that's really where my concern lies, is I don't think Trevor Lawrence coming in suddenly makes this into a great offense, that Gardner Minshew, he's such an improvement over Gardner Minshew, at least right now, that all of a sudden it's going to be, they're going to be scoring touchdowns at a much higher rate. So, that's the concern for me.
I like that call. I hate it because I have a lot of Robinson and Dynasty, but I like the call. All right. Now, Sony Michel goes to LA. I mean, I think this makes him at least a solid RB3 for you rest of the season. What do you think?
I could not disagree more with you. I think that Sony Michel he's an injury-prone guy who's going to get cut by the Patriots if this trade didn't fall into their laps. I think that they're going to form a committee over there. I think Darrell Henderson's still the most talented running back on that team. He's clearly a more adept pass catcher than Sony Michel. For me, Sony Michel is at best an RB4. He's a late-round flyer. He's somebody who I don't want to have to start in any situation. Maybe in a deeper 14-16 team non-PPR, something like that. But I just think that this offense is going to be super pass heavy, and Sony Michel, think about it this way. We're now 2 weeks out from the season. He has to learn an entire very complicated Sean McVay playbook by the season just to get up to speed. Darrell Henderson's been there for a while. These rookies have even been there for longer than Sony Michel now. So he has a lot of learning to do to get up to speed to the rest of the running backs. I don't see it. I don't see him putting too much of a dent. To me, he's more of an insurance policy. Darrell Henderson, he sprained his thumb. They didn't like what they had in the backup running backs. He gives you a little bit of more oomph on the goal line situations. For me, it's a ding for Darrell Henderson. I put him now below Myles Gaskin, Mike Davis, as opposed to well above. But it's certainly not making Sony Michel somebody who I'm super excited about.
So what do we do? It's week 2, and we see Henderson has 11 carries and Michel has 8. What do we do at this point? Where do we go?
In that situation, we say, screw you, Sean McVay, and why did I invest in either of these guys? It's these committees, man. They suck for fantasy owners, and we know this. If you guys are fantasy fans out there, you've been stuck on the wrong side of a committee once or twice. So, it's one of those situations where, you take a flyer. We don't like to root for injury, but should one
Right.
happen, you
Right.
you hope you have the guy on the right end of that. So they're both injury prone guys, Michelle and Daryl Henderson. So if an injury happens to one, the other becomes suddenly very fantasy relevant. So that's kind of where it comes into play. But from day one, I'm a lot more comfortable starting Daryl Henderson for the first 3-4 weeks, barring injury to either of them, than I am Sony Michelle.
It's a sketchy backfield, guys. It's a sketchy backfield. I'm avoiding it if I can. All right, guys. Now, Teddy Bridgewater is named the starter in Denver. Meaning, and the initial reaction I saw this all over Twitter was Jerry Jeudy is now, the guy.
Jerry Jeudy,
I get
Jerry
it.
Jeudy, Jerry Jeudy.
I get. I mean, I get it. I mean, it makes sense. A lot of short passes. Jerry Judy's a technician with the route running, and I get it. A lot of more opportunities for him to work. Lower. Closer to the line of scrimmage and do his thing. I get it. I mean, it makes sense. But I mean, I don't know. I'm not confident in Bridgewater as a quarterback, to be honest, just in general.
I think that this does a lot more for Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant than just about anybody else. We've seen in the past, basically, Teddy Bridgewater has very little standalone value on his own. He has very little appeal for a team as a whole because his touchdown rate is so incredibly low. He has a 3.4% touchdown rate, which is shockingly low. Like when we go into projections for the season, projecting somebody below 4.5, below 4%, even for a rookie, is pretty it's pretty pessimistic. So to have Teddy Bridgewater have a career 3.4% touchdown rate is pretty shockingly low, right? Yeah. So that means there's not a lot of touchdowns to go around. So for me, right off the bat, more than anything else, this puts a ding on the running back's value because we're not getting to the red zone a lot with Teddy Bridgewater at quarterback. As far as the receivers go, we've seen, I expect Jerry Jeudy to finish the season similarly to what we saw from DJ Moore last year, because they profile similarly. They both can stretch the field, but they at the end of the day, they're solid route runners. Obviously, DJ Moore not to the level of a Jerry Jeudy, but Teddy Bridgewater is looking for the easiest way out on any given down. So he wants the route runner who wins fast, who gives you a lot of space, who gives you a lot of room for error, and that's what Jerry Jeudy is, and he's unmatched in the rest of this offense. So for me, Jerry Jeudy is a safe, high-end wide receiver 3. I think that the hype around him is real. Don't expect him to score a lot of touchdowns, but in the PPR league, I expect him to have probably 85, maybe 90 catches this year. So that's assuming Teddy Bridgewater is the starting quarterback all year at minimum. I'm excited about Jerry Jeudy for sure. Second-year leap is for real. And Courtland Sutton, sorry, but until Drew Lock steps into the game, I just don't see it for you now, my friend. I'm not a fan.
That's my guy. That's my arguably my favorite wide receiver in the NFL. So I hope you're wrong. I hope somehow, some way they can get that man the ball. But
are you big SMU fan?
No, I mean I just love his game. He's a freak. His physique he's a freak. His physique matched with what he can do on the field is just different. Like and he became a better route runner before he got the big injury. So I mean I don't know.
I guess you never heard of Julio Jones or anything. So right, next we got Adam Trautman injured week to week. I put this in here just because he was a very popular sleeper pick at tight end position. There's very few pass catchers, very few mouths to feed on that team. So after he injures his ankle, he's going to miss some time. It shouldn't be too long. It's obviously out for the season. People who had already invested in him were worried when they saw him getting carted off the field. Micah, are you still investing in Adam Trautman? He wasn't getting a lot of targets during the preseason, even when he was playing. So I don't know what you think about him.
No, I'm not. I wasn't really interested in him before. I'm not really interested in him now. I watched some tape on him, over whatever over the last few months, and I mean he's solid. But I don't know if we're I'm not expecting like a big breakout here. You know what I mean? I'm not expecting some type of a big jump in production. So I mean, yeah, I might target him if I didn't draft a tight end earlier, and I need one that might have some type of upside. But I'm not actively looking to draft Adam Trautman at all. In general.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we saw from Jameis. Obviously, we're hoping for a little bit of positive change with Sean Payton teaching him the right way and training under Drew Brees the last couple of years. But tight ends were never really a big popular guy for Jameis. Obviously, Cameron Brate had a decent amount of value, but OJ Howard was a big failure there, and he expected him to take off. We saw in the preseason he was a lot more used as a blocking tight end, so there was starting to get some buzz around the talent with Juwan Johnson. For me, if I'm in a deeper league, that's probably the guy that I'm taking a gamble on just as a shot as Juwan Johnson at the end of the draft, and maybe he pans out. I wouldn't expect it. this is just an offense. It's built for Alvin Kamara to succeed, and until Michael Thomas comes back, I don't expect a ton of fantasy relevance. Obviously,
Yeah.
Callaway and maybe Traquan Smith should have a couple games here and there where they go off, and you're just gonna have to hope you pick the right week to start them. But other than that, I'm not expecting anyone to be a week in week out starter in most leagues.
I really do wonder what we're going to see from Kamara. I mean, obviously Kamara's Kamara. He's a terrific player and he uses the opportunities he has to make big plays. But I do wonder what his ceiling will be with Winston, as quarterback.
We were talking about the running backs last week, and I was saying how Kamara his balance is unmatched in the league. And then I was watching NFL 100 this week, and all the players were saying the same. I felt vindicated. I felt like what I was seeing is true, just because it's recognized, right? This guy is special. He does everything so well. And if I'm building a team around a running back, take age out of it, I'm going around Alvin Kamara every day of the week because of his versatility in both the run and pass game.
Agreed. All right, guys. Last note: Ryan Tannehill has COVID, out 5-10 days. I don't think this. We'll see what happens. COVID affects everybody differently. This is a complicated situation overall, but we'll see what happens.
I think for me, it doesn't affect Ryan Tannehill's value as much as it does Julio Jones. That's the one thing, big takeaway for me here is Julio Jones has already missed a pretty big amount of camp. He's obviously new, and he doesn't have the rapport with Tannehill that AJ Brown does. And Tannehill for me, I like him as a nice value as even a starting quarterback, and even a 10-team league, he could be a nice starting quarterback for you probably for most of the year. But when we're talking about Julio, this is a guy who he already has some injury concerns, and now he's missed pretty much all of camp, and now Ryan Tannehill has COVID, even less time for them to get on the same page. I just think that early on, especially, we're going to see some miscommunications. We're going to see some Ryan's eyes kind of leaning towards AJ Brown and some of the guys he's more comfortable with. Obviously, when you got Julio Jones running out there, it's impossible not to throw him the ball. He's Julio freaking Jones. And I'm sure Ryan Tannehill's excited to see what he can do. But AJ Brown's on the other side. So for me, I'm not changing AJ Brown's value, but it's a slight ding for Julio Jones, something to keep in mind when you're investing in him.
I agree. All right, guys. Now we're hopping into what will be our topic of the day: quarterback tiers. Listen, I mean, I in general, I haven't really put out any tiers on Twitter like that. So this is my first time, making this type of thing public. Jesse too, obviously. So I mean, this should be fun. And we're going to start out with, just talking about some of the remaining quarterback battles.
Yes. So the remaining battles out there that have been resolved after Winston was named the starting quarterback, and we saw Lawrence was officially named the starting quarterback, and then we saw Teddy Bridgewater. So the remaining ones out there are Dalton versus Fields, Newton versus Mac Jones, and Trey Lance versus Jimmy G. So from what we have heard, Andy Dalton's going to be the starting quarterback, at least in the first game against the Rams. That one seems to be more clear cut. But Micah, where do these guys' value standalone land as far as quarterbacks? That's the topic of the day is quarterbacks. So are you drafting Andy Dalton in any format? Or are you drafting Justin Fields in any format?
Dalton, if I'm desperate in a 2-quarterback superflex league, I'll start him maybe. Newton, if he's a starter, I'll start same situation as Dalton, but a little higher upside. And Jimmy, it's actually the same thing for all three of them. Go on that same type of I'll start them in a league where I have to have if I can start 2 quarterbacks, I'll start them. But I'm not comfortable starting them as my quarterback week 1 at all. If they all come out week 1 as a starter.
So it's fair to say you have Fields, Jones, and Lance all ranked higher than their veteran counterparts.
Oh yeah, I don't even have Dawson, Newton, and Jimmy even. I mean, they're down there, but they're in the tire that we're not going to talk about today because it's just not really that relevant. But yeah,
yeah, I got to agree. I mean, I think especially with the running capability of Fields and Lance, they could be potential league winners for you. So They're certainly guys with high upside, really high end backup quarterbacks. Mac Jones, obviously to a lesser extent, but if he's the starting guy, he's a starting guy, and he's a young guy. He's got some talent. So I think that Newton holds onto that job probably the longest, but I do think that Mac Jones wins it. I think that the concern over Newton with COVID recently and a lot of the backlash that we saw with the team and the coaching staff being frustrated with him, I think that's real. And I think that Mac Jones was already starting to trend in the right direction. So I think that Jimmy will probably, to the chagrin of some Niners fans, start the year with the gig. But Kyle Shanahan's going to put the best quarterback out there. So the second that Jimmy's screwing up, even if that's, in this last few days of camp, if he starts screwing up even more than he has been, because he's apparently been screwing up, like it could flip quick, that situation, put it that way. Whereas the Newton and Jones situation will be a little bit more of it's going to take a little bit more of a build up for Mac to take that job, as we've seen. He's building up right now, but we'll see how long that build up takes.
And the moment both Fields and Lance win the starting job, people are gonna go nuts. They're gonna everybody's gonna be talking about it. It's gonna be like the hottest news, and you're gonna want them on your team. To be honest, I'm going with them on my team too.
Yes, sir.
Dynasty, whatever,
Yes, sir. Justin Fields, baby. I own as many shares of Justin Fields as I can get.
Yep. All right, now Jesse,
tier one.
Let's talk about your tier one guy. Who you got tier one?
So for me, tier one, it's Patrick Mahomes by himself. There is no one else in my tier one. I think that's pretty conventional wisdom around the fantasy circles. And simply put, the logic behind it is Mahomes does it every year, right? So the last couple of years, he's not, he didn't finish as the number one quarterback in fantasy, but it's hard to predict who's going to be number one. What's easy is to predict that Patrick Mahomes is going to be a top five. So when you're investing in him, you're getting a pretty safe bet he's going to be top five. So if you're a little bit more of someone who likes to take a risk, myself included, I'm going to wait it out and get somebody in that next tier where every single one of them has a chance to be absolutely elite and the number one quarterback in fantasy. I think that Mahomes is pretty safely not going to be the number one quarterback in fantasy, in my opinion. I think that he's more likely to finish 2 or 3. But that's just the name of the game is you're doing projections here, and he's the safest projection. That's why he's by himself. And that one is that of all the quarterbacks, he is assuredly going to be a top 5 quarterback, barring injury, which he's pretty safe from that as well. We've seen him get injured a couple times, but nothing major. So, knock on wood, fingers crossed that he makes it safe again. Micah, your tier one's a little bit different than mine. What's going on there?
Yeah, this is a little different, guys. And I have Lamar Jackson as my quarterback one for 2021. And there's one reason why. Well, obviously, there's more than one reason, but the number one reason is that this is not going to be the same offense we saw in past seasons. This is going to be an offense that's going to ascend to another level with the help of, Rashad Bateman, Tyler Wallace, when he's healthy. It's a new offense. It's a different. It's not going to be the same pass offense of the past. He's going to pass the ball more, and he's still the best playmaking quarterback in the league, and you can't really take that away from him. He's the guy that if you give him the ball in open field, he's the one guy you want, with the ball in his hands if you have a quarterback. Lamar Jackson is the guy. He and I think that if he does ascend his passing game to another level, he'll easily be the quarterback one overall in 2021.
You ever hear the expression you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink?
No, I'm not 60.
Okay, not familiar.
7 years old. I'm not 75.
Okay, so you can give Lamar Jackson as many receivers as you want, unless their names are DeAndre Hopkins and Devontae Adams. I don't think you're going to get him to throw the ball at the same rate as these other guys in the top tier. He's still going to want to run. He's still going to want to throw it to Mark Andrews. He's still going to want to hand the ball off. You do a lot of that read option, RPO kind of stuff. So for me, I just. We already see, Marquise Brown has already had an injury in training camp. Rashad Bateman, Sammy Watkins, these are all guys who they're not. Rashad Bateman's out for what? How long? I forget exactly how long.
I think it's like week to week.
He's missing some time. So, it's certainly. I have no doubt Lamar Jackson's going to do what he did last year at minimum, but to put him above Patrick Mahomes is certainly in my opinion, is certainly a bold call there. But is he alone in your tier one? What else is going on?
He's not alone. I have Mahomes right behind him.
Okay,
I mean, yeah,
so
Mahomes is safe. Yeah, he's safely in tier one. I think these are both options that you will be able to draft this year, and they'll be able to every week put up 30 plus fantasy points for your team. That type of thing.
So if you guys are listening to this, obviously he's not. This doesn't mean to go ahead and draft Lamar Jackson necessarily where you're drafting Mahomes. What it does mean is that if you're taking Micah's advice, as is proven in the past is some successful advice there, it means why take Patrick Mahomes there when you can wait and take Lamar Jackson a round or two later, right? So that's really what he's saying. If Lamar Jackson's going to be even better than Patrick Mahomes, wait it out. And even if you take him a little bit early, you're probably getting him at later than Mahomes. So good value.
Lamar's my guy, man. All right, Jesse.
All right. Moving on to tier 2.
Yep, tier 2.
All right, so I have Lamar in this tier, but he's not my top ranked guy in this tier. I'm going to go in order: Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott. So this tier two, it's, I think no matter where you look, you're going to hear, again, pretty conventional wisdom that these guys belong in tier two. But I do think that Kyler Murray should be, in my opinion, the quarterback two, or in draft order, because I think that he is the guy who was leading the league in fantasy points per game up until he hurt his shoulder. We saw the drop off after that. Let's talk about adding receivers around him, right? Where they invested in, first of all, they invested in Rodney Hudson, who's going to be huge for them. True. And for the O-line. And then they also invested in Rondale Moore. They invested in AJ Green. They still have Christian Kirk and a guy named DeAndre Hopkins. So this is an offense that it's going to go through the year. Chase Edmonds is now their starting running back. Yeah, they have James Conner for their short yardage needs, but Chase Edmonds is going to be the guy in the game most of the time, and he's a pass catching guy too. As far as the legs go, there's nobody other than Lamar Jackson who's more safe and brings the floor higher than Kyler Murray because of his running ability. So for me, that's the guy that I'm targeting in my fantasy drafts is Kyler Murray. I don't know where this disconnect came from that people are down on Kyler. I mean, I don't know what you think, Micah, but Kyler Murray to me, people are putting him, anywhere from 3 to 5, and I just don't see it. I think he's pretty clearly the next best quarterback after Mahomes to take in fantasy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously not because our ratings are different. Obviously not after Mahomes, after Mahomes, then Kyler for me.
Right. Yes.
But I agree with you. I think he's one of the guys, in this league that has just that special ability that's unmatched. It's kind of his rushing ability is really. I mean, obviously we had Lamar, but I mean, next to him, his rushing ability is unmatched. I think I haven't. I'll release it now. I have him as my number 3 guy too. But yeah, he's right there with I'm right there with you.
All right, yeah. So I'll run down the rest of this list, and then let's hear your tier 2, because yours is a little bit deeper than mine as well.
Yeah.
So I got Josh Allen 2, Lamar 3, and Dak 4. This is in the tier. Obviously, they're 3, 4, and 5 overall with Mahomes at 1. Josh Allen did it last year. He showed you why he's so special last year. I mean, the rushing touchdowns are absurd. He's another guy who saves you with his legs. And then he's obviously a great passer with Stephon Diggs, another guy who added receivers. They have Emmanuel Sanders now there. They lost John Brown, but it's not like John Brown was overly utilized. And he's just a guy who you hope is just going to keep getting better, right? For me, the issue with him is just Mahomes. 2 years ago, he was the number 1 guy, won MVP, saw regression the year after that. Lamar, number 1 quarterback, won MVP, regression after that. Should things go as planned, there should be some regression for Josh Allen. So that's why, for me, I don't have him as 1 or 2, because he's not going to – regression is something you need to account for. And that touchdown rate, especially with his rushing touchdowns, it's very hard for him to keep that up. So I think you have to, look at his numbers last year with a grain of salt and say, yeah, could he do it again? Absolutely. He has the talent. He's shown he can do it. But more likely than not, we're going to see him take a small step backwards. Not a big step. I still have him in the same tier. I still have him at the 3rd quarterback. Small step backwards. Then I have Lamar. I really like Lamar, but for all the reasons I said earlier, I can't justify putting him ahead of those guys just because his legs obviously are very special, and for fantasy purposes, he's a guy who you should be able to draft and feel very safe starting every single week. But Mark Ingram's gone now. Both of his running backs, who he wasn't throwing to begin with, are a little bit pass catch averse. So, it's just a kind of guy. It's just it. The pass catchers are there, but he hasn't thrown the ball downfield. So why would I expect until they invest in bringing in Darren Waller and George Kittle to go along with Mark Andrews? I don't see it, because that's what he likes to throw to is tight ends, right? So if he had those 3 tight ends, then maybe I'd bring his value up. But until then, I'm not sure. Which ironically, Darren Waller, little fun fact, was drafted by the Baltimore Ravens before going to the Raiders. And then lastly, we have Dak in the tier. We know about the injuries. We know about the shoulder issue. We also know what he was doing before, which was he was the best, points per game fantasy quarterback until he got hurt last year. And that's without having those legs. He's going to run in a few touchdowns here and there. For me, he's that risk reward guy at the end of this tier. He's the guy who, the health is a serious concern, but you can't draft scared, right? So why would I'm not going to rank him lower than guys who I think are going to perform worse than him. So he's a guy who I feel comfortable with my quarterback. If I'm taking him, I'm certainly a little bit more investing heavily in my backup quarterback than the rest of these guys in this tier, but I wouldn't be scared of taking him. Just keep that in mind when you take Dak. you're going to want to have a good backup just in case. Obviously, no one's telling you to go turn around and draft, Justin Herbert as your backup, but make sure you get somebody in that next Stafford, even Justin Fields area kind of thing if you have to.
Right on. All right. Now, as Jesse said, my tier is a little longer than his. I don't know. I just felt like this it felt right, So I do have Kyler at my number 3 spot, just like Jesse did. I think his rushing upside is just right next to Lamar. He's a special player, and he has a great offense with him. I like him. He should be there. I just feel like that's the right spot for him. Josh Allen is my number 4 guy. Russ Wilson number 5. Aaron Rodgers number 6. Herbert number 7, Dak Prescott number 8, and Jalen Hurts number 9. I think all these guys have the ability to finish because either they're a special, arm, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Justin Herbert, or their rushing ability can carry them to a spot in tier 1. I think all these guys have the upside to be a tier 1 quarterback. And I do have Prescott a little lower than people might want to see him but it's because of the shoulder. I mean, it's his right shoulder, it's his throwing shoulder. He's going to be throwing a lot this year. He has to throw a lot this year if the Cowboys want to win. I think they're going to have to rely on that shoulder, and I don't feel comfortable relying on that shoulder staying healthy for a full season. I just don't. It's just it's scary to me. I don't want to have that as my quarterback one. I'm even even putting him in tier 2. Just even with reports saying, oh, he's healthy, he'll be fine. They have to say that. They have to say what they they want people to hear. I'm not confident. I think this could be something that lingers the entire season. I might even move him down as the season progresses to tier 3 or tier 4 if his performance starts to get a little wonky because of his shoulder, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm not confident in Prescott, but all these guys do have the upside to finish as the quarterback one, or finish in tier 1, as like a high end quarterback.
Fair enough. I mean, that's how you define it. That's how you define it. I mean, for me, I can't justify putting somebody like an Aaron Rodgers or Justin Herbert, who I just don't feel as safe being elite in that same tier. These basically the way I see it is tier 1 is right. He's the safe elite. Then you got tier 2 is the almost guaranteed elite potential QB1. Then you got tier 3 after that, which is what I'm about to get into. Those are the guys who have the upside, but not quite as safe. So, especially Jalen Hurts, it's bold, man. That's bold, but you got to do what you got to do. So,
bro, I mean, Jalen Hurts, man, Hurts is a what I like to call a true professional on and off the field. I think he's a soldier. He's the guy that you want leading your army. I think he's gonna just shock everybody this year. I can't wait. People are gonna doubt him, but I think he's gonna be special this year.
All right, well, fair enough. So for me, I get into that. I get into that tier 3, and my tier 3 is short. It is Justin Herbert, Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers in that order. Aaron Rodgers, I was very reluctant to put in here. I know he went berserk last year and won the MVP of the league, but man, 2 years ago he was not looking too hot, and I think that we're going to see a lot more similar of an Aaron Rodgers to somewhere in between. But I think that look, he comes out here. It's hard because the odds of him replicating that last year are very low, right? From a straight up statistical standpoint, you should be bumping Aaron Rodgers in your ratings. But there is more to football.
But it's Aaron Rodgers,
right?
Though.
There's more to football than statistics, and it's Aaron Rodgers. First of all, it's Aaron freaking Rodgers, and second of all, this is Aaron Rodgers who wants to set the world on fire after what was a very complicated offseason for him. Yeah. So if I'm betting on Aaron Rodgers, I'm betting on Aaron Rodgers, and I'll let my money ride on Aaron Rodgers. So I am keeping him in that tier for nothing else than that he's Aaron Rodgers, and I trust that this last dance stuff is real, and that he's a guy who, when he's motivated, it's pretty hard to stop him. So just gotta throw the numbers out the window sometimes. Justin Herbert I had as the top guy in this tier. I mean, he broke records as a rookie. It speaks for itself. He has some rushing ability. Comp him to Dak in that way, in terms of he's going to run for a couple touchdowns, not a lot of yards. Maybe you'll be lucky if he gets 400 yards probably. But we could see him take a Mahomes-esque step forward in year 2 and win MVP of the league legitimately. He could 100% do that. This is an offense that is built to go through the air. It's a defense that has some question marks. So I just think that he's pretty safe. And then finally, Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson, as it is going too low. I was debating putting him ahead of Justin Herbert just because let Russ cook. Let Russ cook was a big movement last year, and he was killing it early on until they started handing the ball off 50 times a game again. So we'll see if that offense is more balanced. I'm a little bit reluctant. I think that a lot of people are expecting it to be more balanced, whereas what they did actually kind of shows you otherwise a little bit, right? They fired the OC because his offense was too pass heavy. So maybe they're going to lean on the run more. They want to be balanced, but we'll see what that means for them. Maybe for them that means a little bit more than it should. So that's my tier 3. Micah, who do you have in your tier 3?
Yeah, and once again, my tier is just a little longer. I just feel like these guys belong in these tiers. So I have Tom Brady, Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Matt Ryan, Tua, Joe Burrow, Kirk Cousins, and Trevor Lawrence. All these guys, I feel not super comfortable, but I feel comfortable with them as my quarterback one. I kind of debated having Tom Brady in tier 2 just because I feel super safe with him in the offense he's in. But I think he'll easily be a strong quarterback one for you rest of the season. And I think there's a couple guys in here that could really like Lawrence, like Burrow, that could ascend to tier 2, in the future. But I feel safe with all these guys. I don't see any problems with having any of them as my guy, starting going into the season.
I hate Matt Ryan for fantasy football, so I cannot disagree with you more there. He's no redeeming qualities with the legs. He lost his his favorite pass catching target this year. He's old. His arm is slowly getting worse. He has just enough juice in him to give you Calvin Ridley and hopefully Kyle Pitts, but that's probably about it. So I'm not taking Matt Ryan in any format. The rest of these guys, yeah, they're all startable. So I understand where you're coming from.
I think people are just sleeping on that Pitts connection. I think that could get off. I think that could be something that people don't see coming, but that really helps him become a better quarterback overall. We'll see what happens. But I do like Ryan at that spot.
Fair enough. Right. Tier 4 again. My tier 4. My tier is so much smaller than yours, man. I don't know what it is. But
yeah, I need so many guys in these tiers. It doesn't make sense.
I think you just love everyone. You have a hard time keeping anybody off.
I don't do like 20 tiers. I need to do like maybe 7 tops, 8 tops.
Yeah, that's fair. So we did 4 tiers, guys. So for that's where this is coming into play. Is obviously my list is a lot shorter than Micah's because we wanted to go 4 tiers deep for this today. So my tier is tier 4 is Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, and Joe Burrow. Jalen Hurts, we spoke on it. As you guys know, Micah and I are both Eagles fans, so we've obviously paying close attention to him. The running speaks for itself. The opportunity speaks for itself. He has some nice pass catchers, believe it or not. It's obviously the Eagles, but he's got a great group of running backs who can catch the ball. He's got arguably the best tight end tandem in the league in Zach Ertz and Dallas Goedert. He still has Devontae Smith, Quez Watkins, Travis Fulgham, Jalen Reagor. So he has guys, and he has his legs. So it's all set up for him to be a talented fantasy quarterback. At least no one's talking about him as terms of winning the MVP anytime soon, but certainly for fantasy purposes, he could have a ton of upside. Certainly someone I'm comfortable starting. What I like to do personally in a lot of leagues is if you're going to wait, try and get this Brady, Tannehill combo. It's a nice little duo. You maybe take them back to back. Maybe there's some one round in between. It's a nice little way to ensure, especially in 10, 12 team leagues, that you have some really nice quarterback depth. Brady, for me, I think he's being overlooked a lot. I think that obviously, again, we're talking about legs. Legs are the common theme here when you're looking at quarterbacks because they're such a redeeming quality. They make the quarterback so much of a safer play because they just add so much value. Obviously, rushing yards are more valuable than passing yards, and in a lot of leagues, rushing touchdowns are as well. But Tom Brady, I mean, he still has arguably most likely the most talented receiving corps in the league.
Yeah.
And we saw him start to get more and more comfortable as the year goes on. Obviously, we think of him as Tom Brady. Oh, he's the greatest quarterback of all time, but like he's still human, right? So he was learning a new offense last year. He was getting a rapport with new receivers last year. We saw what happened once he got comfortable. They won the freaking Super Bowl. So, another year under their belt, maybe we could see what he did in the playoffs prolonged over a full season. I don't necessarily think that's reasonable, which is why he's ranked where he is, but it's certainly a possibility. So he's certainly someone who you should be comfortable drafting as a starting quarterback.
Yeah.
And then Ryan Tannehill, we talked about him a little bit earlier. But he's got Julio Jones now. That's all you really need to say on it, right? I mean, he's got some nice receivers, and Derrick Henry, you like to think can't do it all, but who knows? He's not really human, so he's capable of a lot more than you or I. And then finally, Joe Burrow is in this tier for me. I mean, just again, you got to look at the receiving group he's got. I mean, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase doesn't get much better than that. So if this guy takes the second year leap that a lot of people are hoping for him, we know the talent's there. He can move, so he should pick up another, hopefully 200-300 yards with his legs and maybe a nice handful of touchdowns. Sky's the limit. So yeah, Micah, who do you have in your tier 4?
I like it. All right, and my tier 4, same story, but a lot of guys. But we have Mayfield, Justin Fields, Carson Wentz, Ryan Fitzpatrick, Ben Roethlisberger, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Daniel Jones, Derek Carr, Sam Darnold, Jameis Winston, Jared Goff. I know it's a lot of people. I know it's a lot of players, but I think this list is the combo of guys that aren't starting yet that have the upside to be quarterback ones, mixed with a bunch of quarterback twos and guys that could finish as quarterback ones. It's a lot of upside mixed with a lot of low floor players. You know what I mean? And a lot of guys that could bottom out for you and not really be a good starter for you, but are guys that you should probably or you could have as your quarterback two on your bench ready to go if somebody that's your starting gets hurt. And I mean, yeah, I debated putting Baker in tier 4. I'm tier 3 just because I really do like him. I think he's a great player.
What do you like about him?
He's a great player, right? He's not, he's accurate with his passes, and he plays in the system that kind of, helps him get 4 touchdown, 150-yard games as opposed to 300-yard games with an interception. We want the touchdowns. I think that's what's going to happen. We'll get a lot of touchdowns because the running game's good.
They're so much harder to predict, though, bro.
But I feel like they're easier to predict when you're in a system that is as strong on the run game as the Browns are. I think it's easier to predict them getting to the red zone where he can hit, Harrison Bryant for a touchdown, something like that. You know what I mean? So
you're throwing Harrison Bryant out there, I know that you're digging deep to cover up some Baker Mayfield stuff here. I mean, look, for me, this is a run heavy offense, right? That's what it is. They're not going to get away from that. So yeah, he has some value as a starting quarterback in deeper leagues, and he can. For me, he's a nice little backup. He's pretty safe to fill in. He should get you 16 to 18 points pretty safely. But that's I don't know. I'd personally would rather have Justin Fields here in your rankings, which you have Baker Mayfield. First of all, Matt Ryan belongs in this tier. I don't care what you say. Matt Ryan belongs in this tier with the rest of these guys.
You could be right, but I'm not willing to say I don't think so.
Tua probably does too. You want to take
no way. I think
you want to take Kirk Cousins there, fine. You want to take Trevor Lawrence, fine. But Tua is I don't know.
Tua is probably too low.
You can put Tua at the top of this tier. You can put Tua at the top of this tier, but that's where he belongs in this tier.
Tua is too low. He's too low. I have him too low. But
fair enough.
All right.
See, you have Jameis Winston on the back end of that tier. I saw so he's not rising at all now that he's officially the starter.
Yeah, I mean he's kind of like a guy that could finish as could be a quarterback 1, but he's more like a quarterback 2-ish, maybe even a low end quarterback 1 right now. It's not a guy that I'm confident throwing out there, but a guy that could put up like a 40-point week any week and win you the week somehow, some way. So definitely not a terrible option, but a guy that I'm not too confident in. Not yet.
Last thing I gotta address before we move on here is how in the world is Jared Goff in this tier at all? Jared Goff should not be started in any formats, people. That's my stance. He has no receivers to throw the ball to. He does not have any redeeming qualities with his legs. This is a bad offense in a tough division. He is going to get you a nice crisp 10 to 12 points a week. And that is what he's going to do for you. Do not draft Jared Goff, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's in that quarterback to that part of the tier. I mean, and the thing is though, I think people really do sleep on that offensive line. I think that if the line does hold up, Goff can deliver balls to guys, and be a solid option for you if one of your guys gets hurt. A solid filling option. He's not going to be the worst quarterback in your league. I guarantee. He's not going to be garbage.
You guarantee he's not going to be the worst quarterback in the league. I don't think you can safely say that. I think there's a legitimate case he's going to be the worst quarterback in the league. I think for fantasy purposes, there's a very legitimate case to be made. He is the worst quarterback in the league. I mean, who's worse? We have the Patriots situation for me is harder. it's harder to get into. Andy Dalton, if he started all games, but that's not going to happen. And then, looking around the league, right? I mean, I don't know. I don't think Ryan Fitzpatrick's gonna be worse. I think he's pretty safely ahead of him. I think you have, Zach Wilson should be ahead of him. I think that maybe, yeah, okay. You know what it is? It's the Texans situation, right? That's the worst quarterback situation in the league, probably. After that, Jared Goff for me. He's number 31.
The Goff disrespect. We'll see what happens, but I'm confident.
I hope he proves me wrong, actually, because that would be, it'd be nice for my boy Amon to have a nice little quarterback throwing him the ball. But for those of you, that's Amon-Ra St. Brown.
My guy.
But he's going to be. When we get into receivers, we'll have a nice deeper conversation with him. But okay, getting into the mailbag. So, Micah, we have some questions for you, right? So this is one that, this one should hit close to home. We have two keepers in the 10-team PPR league. The guy has as options Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Stephon Diggs.
This guy has a great team.
DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins, and James Robinson. So
first of all, I just want to say, whoever this guy is, the fact that he got all these guys on the same roster means he's a terrific fantasy player. Anyways, I would take. I'm definitely taking Taylor, but for my second guy, I'm probably taking Swift if I'm not too concerned about the groin. But we'll see.
So if you are too concerned about the groin, who are you taking?
Aaron Jones.
Aaron Jones? Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's a no-brainer. Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor. Stephon Diggs is obviously, he sneaks in there for some consideration, but running backs carry a lot more value, and these are 2 first-round running backs. If you're high on Swift, if you're high on Dobbins, if you're high on Robinson, you can make an argument, but I'm not going to make that argument. So for me, this is a pretty clear no-brainer that Aaron Jones and Jonathan Taylor should be the guys. But yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at with it.
All right. Now,
moving on. Who has the most redraft value out of Josh Jacobs, Darrell Henderson, Miles Sanders, and Myles Gaskin? Rank those guys for me, Micah.
Oh, man.
Redraft league.
Redraft. Jacobs, Sanders, Henderson, Gaskin. Easy. Not
Jacobs, Sanders, Henderson, Gaskin.
Yep.
I'm going to go Jacobs, Gaskin, Sanders, Henderson.
Oh, ew, bro, what? Gaskin, listen. I Gaskin, Myles Gaskin. If you listen to this video, I respect you as a player. But I don't think the guy's a workhorse. I don't see it.
If Myles Gaskin's listening to this video, I will be very proud of how much this has taken off in 2 episodes. No, look, obviously Josh Jacobs, he's the most talented guy in this group. Was a first-round pick for a reason. He's in a situation where he should be. Hopefully the workhorse, Kenyon Drake's there. He doesn't scare me at all. That was an ill-advised signing by the Raiders. They're going to figure that out quick, as we said last week. That's just how it is. I think that he's being undervalued right now because of the Kenyon Drake signing, and I don't expect Kenyon Drake to do much at all. And Henderson, it's just the injuries are there. Sony Michel's there. It's just it's an uncomfortable situation for me. He's safely on the back end right now until something gives. And then as far as Gaskin versus Sanders in the middle. There's so many running backs on the Eagles, and every report out of camp is that Sanders is looking like dog shit. He's dropping passes left and right, and what redeeming qualities does he have, right? I mean, he's supposed to be like this nice little multi-purpose one-cut runner who can do it all. If that was the truth, then why did they bring in guys who are pass catch specialists, Boston Scott and Kenny Gainwell, and why did they bring in a short yardage specialist and Jordan Howard? Like, I don't know what his role is left. He's going to work first and second down and then come out of the game. And then in the red zone, he's not going to be in the game. I don't see it. So is he the most talented guy there? Yes. Am I still comfortable taking him as an RB2? Yes. But when I'm talking about the rest of these guys, I'm very low on Miles Sanders. He is absolutely a bust candidate for me, whereas ADP is going a lot higher than I'm comfortable taking him. And I might just be way too low on him, but that's how I feel.
That's fair. I do think Miles Sanders has been misused his entire career. I think he hasn't been used as a true workhorse like he should have been to prove to people that he can handle the workload. Now we're at a point where they feel obligated to draft another running back just in case he can't handle the workload because time goes by. So I do think he's had a little bit of an unfair start to his career by I respect that stance. We'll see what happens.
Unfortunately, we don't get to make those calls though, so I don't think that we can call up Nick Sirianni and tell him that he's misusing Miles
No,
Sanders.
I mean I could, but I'm not.
All right, well, okay, well,
I'm
you
not
should.
gonna do it.
If you're gonna go ahead and do that, then I'll move him up my rankings.
All right.
Next question. So who wins this trade? Josh Jacobs and DK Metcalf for Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp.
Oh, I mean that's Taylor easily. Yeah, I mean
Taylor and Kupp.
Yeah, that's Taylor and Kupp. I mean,
I agree.
Yeah, Metcalf is fun, great player, but I mean, come on. I feel like Kupp is a little bit underrated here. I think people are not really considering the fact that he could be, a great player with Stafford behind him, throwing him the ball.
So the person who asked this was the Jacobs owner. So we're both saying to take this trade. Obviously, getting an RB1 like Jonathan Taylor with his upside is more valuable than having a wide receiver one like DK Metcalf. That's nothing against DK Metcalf. I think he can absolutely go off this year and eat. But Cooper Kupp is a nice little receiver there. You're not trading him and you're taking Antonio Brown back as the receiver, right? You're getting Cooper Kupp. So for me, the value is certainly on the offer there, and I would accept that and run with it. And then finally, our last mailbag question. It is the quarterback special. So when we got asked this, we wanted to throw it in there. Who is our top sleeper quarterback? Micah, you want to take this one first?
Tua. Tua is my top sleeper. Tua is, oh my goodness. I'm imagining, I've already been envisioning it, but I'm imagining Tua throwing to Jalen Waddle every week, and it's going to be just something so beautiful. We're going to see it on House of Highlights every week. We're going to see it on Sports Center every week, ESPN. And it's gonna be one of those things that builds up after each game, and then you know how this goes. But yeah, Tua is my sleeper. He's gonna go off this year. I can't wait.
Fair enough. I like Tua too. I think that he's definitely being overlooked in a lot of leagues. So I certainly think that that's a good pick. So for me, I want to say somebody between Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I want to say them. They're the obvious choices as sleeper quarterback because they could be league winners. I'm not going to do it. To be fair, that's what I want to say. I want to make that very clear. Those are my real sleeper quarterbacks. Those are the guys I'm targeting late. However, I want to be a little bit more outside the box. So I'm going to go with Carson Wentz here. I'm going to say that Carson Wentz is my sleeper quarterback. I think that Frank Reich can unlock a little bit of what we saw from him in the past. He's got the best receivers and by far the best O-line that he's had in his career right now. So I just think that, he just like anyone else, just like Ryan Tannehill, just like Dak Prescott, just like Justin Herbert, he has enough of an athletic upside that he's going to steal a few rushing touchdowns here and there. And I think that he's just set up very well to succeed as long as he can stay healthy, which is, like asking, back in the day, Darren McFadden to stay healthy, or, I'm not trying to go too far in the past, but these guys are made of glass, and you can't change that. Carson Wentz appears to be one of those guys, but if he can somehow stay healthy, which everyone in Philadelphia is hoping so that they can get that first round pick from the Colts instead of a second, I think that he is going to be a very valuable quarterback for fantasy rosters and very startable on a matchup basis. So if he's going against, he's in that nice AFC South when he gets to play the Jags and the Texans twice a year, and even the Titans to an extent, he's going to be a nice little matchup based starter.
Yeah, people are sleeping on Wentz. As long as he stays healthy, he doesn't have terrible receivers. Pittman, Paris Campbell, this new guy talking about
T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton, this new, what's his name? Michael, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Strahan, something like that. So I mean, all these new
Michael Strahan. Yeah, Michael Strahan is now a receiver for the Indianapolis.
That's how it's spelled. STRACHAN. Straight Chan. That has to be Straight Chan. Whatever. Yeah, I think they have a lot of talented players that could do something this year. So I like it. All right, guys.
Fair enough.
And that's the show. Thank you all.
That's the show.
Thank you guys for tuning in again, for staying with us this time. We'll probably have it out next Friday again around the same time, around 6 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, around that time on Twitter. I'll be streaming live from Twitter. This will be going up on YouTube, up on Spotify. Hopefully we'll have it out on Apple Music and all the other podcast listening platforms soon enough. And yeah, thank you guys for listening again.
Next week we're getting into running backs, people, so you're not going to want to miss it. Running backs are league winners every single year. It's an important show. So if you're trying to win your league, you want to hear about running backs, tune in next Friday.
Yep. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you.
All right. See you.